Welcome back, everybody. If you're new here, one of my number one goals of this channel is to deliver as much value as possible in the shortest amount of time possible. So let's get into it. So I've been studying some of the dumb things people do with their money, myself included when I was younger, and I decided to make a series on it. I'm going to share some lessons with you that I've learned so you don't make the same mistakes. And in this video, we're going to talk about the background of where I was financially at the time, how human nature plays into the decision making that we do, how I felt desperate and decided to take on some risk to get myself out of a desperate situation. I know that's going to hit home with many of you. The disaster that ensued, the miraculous turnaround that happened, and the lessons I learned from all of this. And the number one lesson, don't be stupid. So a little background on where I was financially at the time. I was in my mid to late 20s. It was about 2019. I had a pretty good job that I scored earlier on in life, had a little retirement account through work, had a lot of cash on the sidelines. I was looking to buy a property. I was a bachelor at the time, so it was single income. And as you can tell, and as we all know, properties are very expensive, interest rates fluctuate, and I didn't want to become house poor. So I was thinking of all the ways I could make money, make extra money, so I didn't have to be enslaved to a house or a condo. So I started working other jobs. I began seeking promotions at work. I was cutting costs. I was doing everything right. And still it wasn't enough. So I started looking online of ways to trade stocks. I saw people posting things on Twitter at the time. We've all seen it. Look at this stock. It went up 300x. I told you in the Discord. Subscribe now. It's at $10 a month. And I started jumping into these Discords. And I thought to myself, well, I got all this cash on the sideline. If I put a couple grand up, really no big deal. And the worst thing ever happened to me. I knew nothing about stocks and trading stocks at the time. And someone posted, check out this penny stock. It's going to boom because of this reason. And I put some money into it. And like I said, the worst thing happened to me. The stock went up like crazy and I made a couple $100 overnight. And I was thinking to myself, this is so easy. Anyone can do this. Why isn't everyone doing this? So I didn't learn a hard lesson then with just a couple $100, maybe $1,000. I got lucky then, and I thought that I was the stock trading genius of all time. So moving on, here's how human nature came into play here. I made a couple $100 overnight while I was sleeping. That was very enticing to me, right? Now, once again, the human nature side of this, if there's a blueberry bush right here, and there's one 20 miles away, where do you think I'm going to go to get those calories? I'm going to expend very few calories to walk one step to get the calories right here in this bush rather than walking 20 miles away, okay? Humans are extremely good problem solvers. There's a saying too that Steve Jobs has, take your laziest employee, put them on the hardest problem, and you're going to come up with the best way to get that problem solved. Very efficient. We're very innovative as human beings. Sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit, but when we're being lazy, it's actually playing right into our human nature. And let me ask you this. Are you going to work a job that pays you $8 an hour to say sweep the floor? Or are you going to work one that pays you $40 an hour to do that same job? Obviously, you're going to go to the one that pays you $40 an hour. That's calorie conservation right there, because you're going to expend the same amount of calories to get even more resources, so then you can take that money and buy more calories with it. And coming back to my situation, I was pretty maxed out where I was working. At the time, there really wasn't much job hopping like there is nowadays. The promotions weren't coming for quite some time. I didn't come from a rich family. I had nothing to inherit. It was all falling on me, and I didn't want to be house broke. I was starting to feel desperate and I was ready to take on some risk. I was starting to feel that a lot of us feel it in our mid to late 20s, that 9-to-5 rat race, that feeling of the matrix. You need to break free. You're starting to feel trapped, so you start feeling desperate. Then this is where I started to realize I'm going to have to take on some risk and do something new to try and get myself out of this. And that segues into disaster. And speaking of the 9-to-5 rat race, I'm working really hard to get this channel off the ground. So if you could hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, it would mean so much to me as I work hard to break free from that 9-to-5 grind. Thank you so much. Now let's get back to the video. So I had a friend of mine reach out to me and he was asking, are you still trading stocks? I said, yeah, like I'm some stock guru, right? I'm telling my friends, look what I did overnight, a couple $100. But he was dabbling in stock trading too, and he made a couple bucks as well. And he's saying, hey, I got a good lead on something. I said, yeah, send it over. He said that there was a biotech company where some of the data and one of the trials came back a little bit misleading, and that's why the data looked poor, and that's why the stock fell off a cliff. Meanwhile, he and I are not doctors, we're not data scientists, we're not medical professionals of any stretch of the imagination whatsoever. But when we went on stock twits and these Discord channels and Twitter at the time, everyone was starting to convince themselves that this specific biotech stock, which was now a penny stock pretty much, was going to explode. Oh, the data was off. Everyone was convincing each other of, it's going to do just fine. Wait till they fix the data. So they had us convinced. I had him convinced. He had me convinced. Everybody was in this self-reinforcing circle of convincing each other that all these doctors and really smart people were wrong. And with all this risk staring me in the face, I bought thousands and thousands of dollars worth of shares. I wanted to buy a house with 50% down. I wanted to not have to work a side job. I didn't want to be house broke. Remember, like many of you out there that have had this feeling, I was desperate. I was ready to take on some risk. And a little bit about me, I've had a couple amateur MMA fights. I've competed in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been doing that for years, a little bit of kickboxing. I'm pretty risk averse, so I said, screw it. I got plenty of cash on the sidelines. I'm gonna take a couple grand. I think I initially started with $10,000 and I sunk it right into this biotech stock. And as time went on, you guessed it, it started to go down a little bit and down a little bit and down a little bit. And everyone online is saying, buy the dip, buy the dip. So I started buying the dip, 2,500 rather more there, and 1,000 more here and 3,000 here. Before you know it, I had put almost $30,000 into this absolutely dead-end biotech stock. And I have a screenshot somewhere, I'm gonna put it right here if I can find it, of where I was down $20,000 at one point. And this is where things got really, really bad. All this risk, and I'm risk averse and all that went right out of the window. I was down so much money. I started doing the calculus on how much time I would have to work to make that money back. And I was thinking of a parallel universe where if I just had that money back and put it into some dividend stocks that were safe, I'd be so much better off. Now I can't even buy a house. I'm down so much money, and I just kept buying and buying. And finally I stopped buying and I said, screw it, whatever happens, happens. At some point, it's either gonna get completely liquidated and I can write it off for taxes, which isn't very good either, or it's gonna kind of level out maybe, or maybe it will pop off. And during this period of time, I was in one of the lowest points in my life. I was having severe insomnia. I'd wake up, I couldn't really get to bed. And when I finally did get to bed, I'd wake up at some point and all I could do was think about it. The negative sign, the red dollar sign, digit, comma, 3 more digits. I'm down over 5 figures. I worked so hard to get that money. And I thought I was a stock trading guru because I got lucky once. And I'm screwed now. I started losing my appetite. My stomach was killing me. It was affecting my mood. It was a disastrous period of time. But as time went on, COVID started coming around, and I was actually in line for a COVID test. And as we all know, the government was pumping trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars into the economy. Stocks that made no sense were going through the roof. And my friend actually gave me a call. He was down a lot too, not as much as I was, but he was down and not feeling too good about it. He called me. I was in line for a COVID test. He goes, have you seen the news? And every day there was new news. Wear 1 mask, maybe 3, and maybe none now. And this happened and this is going on. The world was crazy. So I'm going, what news? Please tell me something good. Nothing but bad news. He goes, the stock has exploded. That data that we were talking about and learned about came back good when they recalibrated everything. So I pulled out my phone and I saw that I was up tens of thousands of dollars. I erased my $20,000 in losses and I was able to get a gain of about $16,000. So I immediately pulled out of the line. I called the broker. I said, sell it all. Yes, I don't care what the price is, sell it all. And I promised myself I would never get myself into this situation again. So to summarize, here are the lessons learned. Remember, all of us need money. All of you out there, you have bills to pay. You want a new car, you want to upgrade your phone, maybe you're looking to buy your first house. We're all feeling that sense of needing more money. So don't do something stupid like I did. Number 2, understanding your human nature. We all have it built in us. Now you understand how calorie conservation works and how if you can make a lot of money in a short period of time, it's very efficient when it comes to expending your calories in the most efficient way. So be aware of that. We all have it in us, so be careful of that. Number 3, all of us have that feeling of desperation at one point or another, especially when you hit your mid to late 20s, you're working that 9-to-5 job, you thought this was everything it was supposed to be, and you start doing some thinking. You start questioning, there's gotta be more to life than this 9-to-5, grind all the time, I don't have any free time, I live for the weekends. It's not very fun, but trust me when I say it, you don't wanna go out there and take on too much risk. Why? Because it leads to number 4, which is oftentimes disastrous results. And many people out there that hit disaster, taking on too much risk, gambling or whatnot, they typically don't get a number 5. I got very lucky that there was a miraculous turnaround. Statistically, most people who take on way too much risk, it's gonna end in disaster, and they're not gonna get a miraculous turnaround. So be very careful. Now, I'm not saying don't take on any risk, because even when you have your money in safe ETFs in the stock market or precious metals, there's some risk associated with that. But there is also a risk on not taking any risk at all. If you have all your money stuffed under the mattress, you'll get no market appreciation or dividends or return on your capital whatsoever. Also, something that's pretty low risk is starting a side hustle of sorts. If you're very good with arts and crafts, you could start an Etsy shop. If you're very creative or you're really good at video games, you could start a Twitch account, or if you've always wanted to start a YouTube channel, I implore you to try it. Start with something very small, very low risk. And as time goes on, maybe you could turn that Etsy shop into your full-time job, or your Twitch account, you can make some serious money and make something happen. So you don't always have to jump into the deep end with the sharks like I did to try and make something happen. There's many options out there. And coming back to the number 1 lesson, don't be stupid. This was a stupid thing that I did, and it was a terrible experience. Now, on the other side, I'm very happy that it happened to me, because I will not be so risk averse as I was when I was younger. But anyways, that wraps up this video. If you've had any sort of experience doing something dumb like this with money, drop a comment below. Let me know some of the lessons that you've learned going through life and investing and whatnot. And if you found value in this video, please hit that like button and make sure to subscribe for more videos just like this. I'll see you next time. Thank you.